Sachi Baju Juji Medo Da Mirang Jin Den Jemba Di Nanje Jindu Medo Buwa Ye Drogun Nandam Jilo Choba Jo Buddha Bode Sarva Namandala Buddha Mega Samudra Zabarana Samaye Good evening, everyone. Good to see you. Glad that you could be here this Friday night. We're going to continue on our path through the Heart Sutra, put it aside for the holidays, and now we're going to pick back up. We might have a week in the next couple of weeks where we do some stuff for the Lunar New Year, but just gonna, other than that, we're gonna see if we can finish the Heart Sutra sometime in the next couple of months, hopefully. As you can see, we've been going into it in some depth, so we're going to continue with that. I don't know that we need to spend as much time on it as we have been, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. So tonight we're just going to do like a little bit of a sum up, like a little bit of a review of what we've gone through so far. But again, before we start in with tonight's Dharma talk, let's take a moment, just relax with our minds. This is not hard at this point since we spent a good 45 minutes, 50 minutes settling the mind into its natural state. This enables us to become an excellent empty vessel for receiving the Dharma teachings. And all we have along with that is an aspiration and motivation to take what we learn, take what we practice, take what we reap from our spiritual path and our spiritual lives, and use that to benefit others. We call this altruistic motivation. This is the crux, the ground of the path of the Bodhisattva. So we make this Samaya commitment to listen to the teachings, hear them as best we can, contemplate the teachings so that we are clear on what they mean, and then meditate on the teachings. And meditation has two meanings in this respect: the meaning of further embodying the teachings within us, and then the practice of using what we learn out in the world to benefit others. So with that in mind, we can go for a little bit of a review of what we've gone through previously in the past year and even before. So being that we've been studying the Heart Sutra at length, we've progressed through the introduction to the sutra main into the main body of the text itself. There are many ways that we have of studying the Heart Sutra. There are many different, I mean, the Prajnaparamita Sutra is there are many different texts, many different lengths of texts. The Heart Sutra itself is the most brief exposition of the ideas of the perfection of wisdom. And so we went into that to begin with. We had that discussion, the discussion about the history of the Heart Sutra, that it belongs to these sutras within the Mahayana canon, But there are several other lengthy sutras of which it is a part. It was originally revealed by Nagarjuna, who was a great practitioner, philosopher, the first Mahayana practitioner. And he revealed this as a direct teaching of the Buddha. In fact, I think we can probably say this is the most important presentation of the Mahayana core teachings on wisdom and the experience of enlightenment. In and of itself, it constitutes what we say is the core Mahayana teaching, which is the second turning of the wheel of Dharma, which the Buddha gave at Rajgir. It's summed up in this Prajnaparamita Heart Sutra teaching. As such, we review the Mahayana path as the path of the bodhisattvas, those that strive to attain this highest level of realization so that we can benefit not just ourselves personally, but all sentient beings inclusively. So one way to approach the text is a breakdown of this path step by step, the step-by-step path of the bodhisattvas in their meditative and spiritual practice, incorporating, the ideas of the enlightenment wish, the wishing bodhicitta, the actualizing bodhicitta, which is the engaged action of the bodhisattva, and then lastly, the ultimate bodhicitta, which is the attainment of enlightenment itself. So this text really relates very much to the realization of enlightenment itself, this accumulation of wisdom. So the bodhisattva progresses through what we call the bodhisattva bhumis on the path to Buddhahood. The preparation for entry and progression through the bodhisattva bhumis is outlined in what we call the 5 paths. And so that's an outline that's common both to the path of both the first and second turning of the wheel of Dharma, but only outlines what we call the common path of the Mahayana, which is common to all Mahayana practitioners, which is what we also might call the perfection of the gathering of perfections, or the Sutra path. The uncommon path in the Mahayana is what we call the path of Tantra. This also, later in the Heart Sutra, is outlined. But right now, at this point, we're going through the text and seeing what the common path of the Mahayana is. It's elucidated in the stanzas of the Heart Sutra. So just to briefly refresh our memories and review what we talked about the outline of the 5 paths and the subjects we've covered. So in the main body of the text, Avalokiteshvara describes in the first 2 paragraphs how practitioners, as a result of their meditative experience and the practice of calm abiding meditation, shamatha meditation, where the bodhisattvas learn to still their minds and concentrate on one thing. And then the practice of vipassana meditation, which is analytical meditation, where they apply analysis to their experience. And through this inquiry, they gain some intellectual knowledge about the nature of the true reality of things, which is that they are empty in nature, that they are all dependently arisen, and that we experience them through these other things that are dependently arisen, which are called the aggregates, right? The sense organs that we have and their objects of sense perception. So this is called the path of accumulation and preparation. These are the first 2 of the 5 paths. Then in the paragraph where Avalokiteshvara makes the statement, form is empty, emptiness is form is not other than emptiness, emptiness is not other than form. At this point, the practitioner now has started to gain this realization of the true nature of things that goes beyond being able to put words to it. So it's beyond conceptual, but it is an experience. So they have this non-conceptual experience of the true nature of emptiness and actually enter into what we call the path of seeing. And this, at this point, is where the bodhisattva enters the first bodhisattva bhumi. And so that is explained in the subsequent paragraph. Therefore, Shariputra, all phenomena are empty, not born, not dying, not stained, not pure, not gaining, and not losing. And so those are the 6 attributes of this empty nature. Then the bodhisattva enters into what we call the path of meditation. And that is contained in the next few stanzas in the Heart Sutra. So at this point, the bodhisattva has this deepened experience of the dependently arisen empty nature of all things, subject and object. And so this is then explained in various ways. And we went into great detail about the various ways and various schemas that we looked at in terms of how the bodhisattva can experience these things. There is more elaboration on the emptiness of the sense objects and the sense perceptors, right? The emptiness of formless objects like thoughts and the mind, and the emptiness on the perceptor of thoughts, right? Which is this consciousness. Then we went into detail about the emptiness of all the different links of what we call the 12 links of dependent origination, which is how we experience cyclic existence, in between in this life and in the transitory state, and then in the embodiment into a next existence or the existence previous to this. So this is the 12 links of dependent origination, which is this outline of samsaric existence. And then also we went into the empty nature of the first teachings of the Buddha, the first turning of the wheel of Dharma, the 4 noble truths. And then lastly, we ended up explaining that even anything that we think conceptually itself has an empty nature because it's dependent on previous concepts, previous thoughts that have to be there in place in order for us to be able to experience any concepts at all, so that they are all dependently risen and empty. So here the Bodhisattva progresses through the first through the 9th Bodhisattva bhumi, and from the point of view of the 5 paths, the conclusion of the path of seeing. So our upcoming topics in the next few weeks will be the conclusion of what we call the common Mahayana path, or the Sutrayana path, or the Paramitayana path, which is the last of these steps that the Bodhisattva takes. So we're going to talk about the path of no more learning, or the Bodhisattva at that point has nothing more to learn and is on the gateway to Buddhahood. So that will be coming up in subsequent weeks, and just wanted to refresh our memories before we start with that. So next week we'll begin on the path of nothing more to learn. But for tonight, we can finish up by dedicating merit and the refuges. So.
feedback.